What if I told you that everything you've been taught about death is a lie? That the moment you take your final breath, your consciousness doesn't fade into nothingness, but instead expands into a realm so vast, so incomprehensible, that even the government has spent decades trying to suppress the truth. There exists a secret CIA report, declassified, buried under layers of bureaucratic obscurity, that reveals exactly what happens after you die. And if you knew what was inside it, you'd never look at life or death the same way again. Right now, powerful institutions don't want you to know this. Religions have twisted it. Science has ignored it. The education system has erased it. Because if you truly understood what happens when you die, you would no longer be controlled by fear. And fear, my friend, is the most valuable currency in this world. But today we're going to uncover the truth. The unfiltered, unspoken reality that has been hidden from you all along. In 1983, the CIA conducted an experiment so profound, so shocking, that even the agents involved struggled to comprehend its implications. This classified project, known as the Gateway Process, wasn't just another military mind control study. It was something far more mysterious. The research, originally spearheaded by the Monroe Institute, explored the idea that consciousness isn't confined to the body, that with the right techniques, the human mind can transcend the physical world and enter realms beyond our current understanding. They weren't just experimenting with brainwaves, they were mapping what happens when you die. The report described something astonishing, that consciousness is not a product of the brain but rather a separate force, existing outside of space and time. That means you were never just your body. You are a fragment of something infinite, something so vast that your physical experience is only a tiny sliver of the full picture. And when you die, that illusion of limitation vanishes. But here's the part that will shake your reality to its core. The report suggests that our universe, everything we see, touch, and experience is nothing more than a hologram, a projection from a deeper, more fundamental field of energy. This is not speculation. This is not just some spiritual theory. This is something the CIA spent years studying, validating, and ultimately trying to keep from the public. Why? Because if reality is an illusion, then so is death. And if death is an illusion, then control through fear, through manipulation, through societal programming becomes impossible. What would happen if every single person realized they could never truly die, that their consciousness was eternal? The systems in place, the governments, the religious institutions, the corporations that profit from your fears would crumble overnight. Near-death experiences provide even more proof. Thousands of people across every culture, every religion, and every background have reported eerily similar stories. The moment their body shuts down, they find themselves outside of it, watching from above. Time stops. They are pulled into a tunnel, a swirling vortex of energy, leading them to what many describe as the light. But what is this light? Religious texts call it heaven. Some mystics call it source. But those who've been there and returned say it is something far more complex. It is a field of infinite intelligence, a place where you remember who you truly are. They describe an overwhelming sense of peace, of oneness, as if waking up from a long dream. And in that moment they see everything, their life, their choices, the ripple effect of every action they've ever made. But here's where it gets strange. The life review isn't just about judgment. It isn't about punishment or reward, it's about understanding. You don't just see your life, you relive it, from the perspective of those you've impacted. If you caused someone pain, you feel that pain as if it were your own. If you brought someone joy, you feel that joy multiplied. This isn't some fairy tale. This isn't just a hallucination of the dying brain. This is something so real, so structured, that it suggests the universe itself is a school, a grand simulation designed for learning and evolution. And the most shocking part? Many who've gone through this experience describe meeting beings of light, intelligent entities who communicate telepathically, guiding them through this transition. Some call them angels. Others believe they are aspects of their higher self. But one thing remains constant. These beings tell them the same truth. You are not your body. You are consciousness, eternal and infinite, and death is not the end, it's just the beginning. The Gateway Process report aligns with this in a way that's almost chilling. It describes techniques that allow an individual to leave their physical body at will, to enter these other planes of existence without dying. Through controlled meditation, frequency manipulation, and hemispheric synchronization of the brain, participants were able to detach their awareness from the physical world and navigate what the CIA referred to as the absolute. Think about what that means. If these techniques are real, and they are, then death is not necessary to experience what lies beyond it. Consciousness is not bound by matter, it is not confined to the brain. And if you can separate from your body in a controlled, conscious way, it means one thing: your physical life is just a temporary illusion. But let's take this even deeper. If you were never really your body, if death is nothing more than a shift in perception, then what happens next? Where do you go? The answer lies in something that has been whispered across centuries, hidden in ancient texts, and now quietly acknowledged by science. Reincarnation. The University of Virginia has conducted extensive research into past life recall, particularly in children. The results are staggering. Children as young as 3 years old have described incredible details of past lives. Memories they could not possibly have known. Names, locations, events that, when researched, turn out to be real. These aren't just vague symbolic recollections. They are accurate, verifiable accounts of past human lives. This aligns perfectly with the CIA's findings. If consciousness is non-local, if it exists outside of the body, then of course it continues after death. But here's the twist. It doesn't always go where you expect. Some souls report being drawn back into the physical realm, compelled by unfinished lessons or unresolved attachments. Others describe being guided into higher planes, realities so different from Earth that they defy description. Some even claim to have chosen their next life, selecting their parents, their challenges, even the circumstances of their birth, all as part of a grand cosmic design. And this is where control comes in. What if I told you that there are forces at play, entities and institutions that do not want you to remember this process, that want to keep you locked in the cycle of reincarnation, lifetime after lifetime, unaware of your true nature? The CIA's research suggests that the material world is engineered to keep you distracted, disconnected from your infinite self, that the biggest lie you've ever been told is that you are small, temporary, and powerless. But the truth? You are limitless. This is just the beginning. You have been lied to your entire life. The world you live in, the reality you think is solid, is nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep you trapped. But what if I told you there was a way out? That the moment you take your last breath, the doors to a greater reality swing wide open, revealing the truth that has been hidden from you all along. The secret CIA report confirms it. Consciousness does not die, it cannot be destroyed. It only transitions. Imagine for a moment the final moments of your life. Your body begins to shut down, your heart slows, and then nothing. But you are still aware, you can still think, you can still feel. You find yourself floating above, watching everything unfold as if it were a movie. The doctors, the loved ones, the sounds of the room, but none of it feels real anymore. The illusion has been shattered. And then you are pulled, lifted, drawn towards something beyond comprehension, a tunnel, a vortex, a spiral of pure energy, and at the end of it a light unlike anything you have ever seen before. Those who have been there and returned say the same thing. The light is not just a place. It is an intelligence. It is love. It is home. It is the source of everything you have ever been and everything you will ever become. And in that moment, you remember. You remember that you are not your body. You never were. You are something far greater, far older, something infinite. The CIA's Gateway Process describes this exact moment in chilling detail. The idea that consciousness is not only separate from the body but can navigate different dimensions of existence. This is not theory. This is not speculation. This is documented research, buried in classified reports hidden from the public for decades. But the question is, why? Why would they keep this knowledge from you? Why would they not want you to know what happens when you die? The answer is simple, because the truth would set you free. If you knew that this life was just a temporary experience, a blink in the vastness of eternity, how much of your fear would disappear? How much of your suffering, your worry, your pain would dissolve the moment you realize that death is nothing more than waking up from a dream? Governments, religions, corporations, they all thrive on control, and the most powerful form of control is fear. The fear of death is the greatest weapon ever wielded against humanity. It keeps people obedient. It keeps them distracted. It keeps them blind. But you are beginning to see through it. The pieces of the puzzle are coming together. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, ancient Egyptian texts, secret government experiments, they all point to the same truth, that when you die you do not disappear, you do not fade, you expand, you ascend, you become more than you have ever been. And the world you left behind, it was never truly real to begin with. Those who have crossed over describe it as a life review, a moment where every experience, every choice, every action is played back in perfect clarity. But this is not judgment. This is not punishment. It is understanding. You see your life not from your own perspective, but from the eyes of every single person you have ever affected. If you caused someone pain, you feel it. If you brought someone joy, you experience that joy magnified 1,000 times. The purpose is not to condemn, it is to teach, to help you understand the impact you have had, the lessons you were meant to learn, and the choices that will shape what comes next. But not everyone moves on. Some become trapped in a cycle, a loop of their own making. Ghosts, spirits, lost souls, these are not just stories, they are real, and they are stuck. Not in some fiery hell, not in some divine punishment, but in their own minds, their own unresolved emotions, their own refusal to let go. This is the real danger, not death itself, but the inability to move beyond it. And then there are those who do not return, those who step beyond the veil and enter realms so vast, so complex that human words fail to describe them. They speak of worlds made of light, landscapes woven from thought, places where time does not exist. They speak of meeting others, beings of incredible wisdom, guides who help them understand what comes next. And for some, the journey does not end. Reincarnation is not just an idea, it is a system, a mechanism through which consciousness continues to evolve, to experience, to grow. But here is the part they never tell you. It is not automatic, it is not random, it is a choice, a decision, one that is influenced by the very energy you carry with you when you die. The more attached you are to this world, the more unfinished business you leave behind, the more likely you are to return, to start again, to try once more. But those who awaken, those who recognize the illusion for what it is, they move beyond it. They step into something greater. But there is one more layer to this story. One more secret buried beneath centuries of deception. The illusion is not just limited to this life. It extends beyond death itself. There are forces, entities, systems, mechanisms that seek to keep you within the cycle, to pull you back into the game. Some call it the soul trap, the idea that after death souls are manipulated, tricked into returning, their memories erased, their awareness reset. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But think about it. Why do so many ancient cultures warn of illusions after death? Why do they describe false lights, deceptive voices, beings who appear not to help but to guide souls back into another lifetime? Could it be that the control does not end with death but merely continues in another form? The CIA documents hint at something disturbing, that the nature of reality is far more complex than we've been led to believe, that the physical world is just one layer of a much larger system, and that those who understand how to navigate it, how to break free from the illusion, can move beyond it entirely. So the question is, how do you prepare? How do you ensure that when your moment comes, you are not pulled back into the cycle, but instead step into your true power? The answer has been hidden in plain sight, passed down through ancient teachings, whispered by those who have glimpsed the other side. Awareness, intent, conscious detachment. It begins now, in this life, with every choice you make, every thought you entertain, every attachment you let go of. The more you awaken here, the more you recognize the illusion before death, the easier it becomes to navigate what comes after. Fear is the only thing that keeps you bound. Fear of loss, fear of the unknown, fear of stepping into something greater. But fear itself is an illusion, and when you see it for what it is, it loses its power. This is the truth they never wanted you to know. You are not small. You are not temporary. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are eternal, limitless, divine. And the moment you realize that, truly realize it, the game changes forever. Everything you have ever feared about death has been based on a lie. The moment you realize this, your entire perception of reality shifts. You were never meant to live in fear. You were never meant to believe that this life was all there is. That was programmed into you by society, by religion, by institutions that thrive on control. Because the truth is far more powerful than they want you to know. The truth is that death is not the end. It never was. It is a doorway, a transition, a shift from one state of awareness to another. And if you understand this before your final breath, you gain something most people never do. You gain the power of choice. For centuries, spiritual traditions have whispered this truth, hidden in esoteric texts, buried within ancient knowledge. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the teachings of Hindu mystics, the records of near-death experiences, they all describe the same thing. A passage, a journey, a moment where you come face to face with the truth of who and what you really are. And the CIA, through its classified research, confirmed that this was not just a belief. It was real. Their studies into the gateway process revealed that consciousness is not confined to the body. It is not bound by the limitations of flesh and bone. It is energy, frequency, vibration, and it exists independently of the physical world. What happens when you die is not a mystery. It has been documented, studied, even experienced by those who have come back, and they all say the same thing. The first thing you feel is an overwhelming sense of clarity, a sudden awareness that everything you thought was real was only a fraction of the truth. You see your body, your life, everything you ever cared about, and yet none of it holds the same importance anymore, because you are free. There is a reason the dying often report seeing loved ones, beings of light, entire landscapes beyond anything they have ever imagined. It is because their consciousness is shifting into a different state of reality, one that has always existed but has been hidden behind the veil of human perception. And in that moment, you are faced with a decision. You can move forward into something vast and infinite, or you can cling to what you have always known, bound by the attachments of your former self. This is where most people become trapped, not by some external force, not by some divine judgment, but by their own mind. The things you fear, the things you regret, the unfinished business of your soul, they all take shape in this in-between state. Some call it purgatory, others call it the bardo, but its nature is the same. It is a realm where your unresolved emotions manifest, where your subconscious creates your experience. Those who are afraid, those who resist, those who cannot let go. These are the souls that linger, caught in loops of their own making. But those who understand, those who accept, those who move forward with awareness, they go beyond. And what they describe is beyond anything the human mind can comprehend. They speak of entering realms of pure light, merging with something far greater than themselves, experiencing a sense of unity so overwhelming that words fail to describe it. And in that moment, they remember. They remember who they were before they were born. They remember why they chose to come here, and for some, they remember that they have been here before. Reincarnation is not a theory, it is not a superstition, it is a mechanism, one that has been studied and documented by those who dared to look beyond the veil. Scientists have recorded thousands of cases of children who recall past lives with verifiable details, names, places, events they could never have known. Ancient cultures have mapped out the cycles of rebirth, describing in detail how souls return to continue their journey. But the most shocking revelation of all is that this cycle is not automatic. It is influenced, it is guided, and in some cases it is manipulated. There are forces, whether you call them entities, archons, or something else entirely, that operate within this system. The CIA's research hinted at this, though they never fully disclosed it. But those who have explored the nature of consciousness, those who have studied the accounts of the dying, those who have looked deeply into the structure of reality itself, have come to the same unsettling conclusion. Some souls are pushed back into reincarnation, their memories wiped, their awareness reset. And the question is, why? The answer lies in control. A soul that forgets is a soul that can be manipulated. A soul that does not remember its power, its origins, its infinite nature, is a soul that can be made to obey. This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize awakening, not just in life but in death. To wake up before you die is to prepare yourself for what comes next. To recognize the illusions now is to ensure that when the moment comes, you are not deceived. The Tibetan masters understood this. They practiced lucid dying, the ability to maintain awareness through the death process, to navigate the transition consciously. They warned of deceptive visions, false lights, distractions meant to lure souls back into the cycle. They spoke of the clear light, the ultimate moment of liberation, where those who recognize it can merge with their true essence and break free. This is why the world around you is designed to keep you distracted, to keep you asleep, to keep you so focused on the material world, on survival, on fear, that you never stop to ask the bigger questions. What happens when I die? Where was I before I was born? Who am I, beyond this body, beyond this mind, beyond this identity I have been given? Because the moment you ask, the moment you truly seek the answer, you begin to wake up. And the more you wake up, the less control they have over you. The CIA knew this. That is why they studied it. That is why they classified it. That is why they buried the research under layers of secrecy. Because a world full of awakened beings is a world that cannot be controlled. A world where people no longer fear death is a world where power structures collapse. So what do you do with this knowledge? How do you prepare yourself for what comes next? It begins with awareness. Right now. The more you become conscious of the illusion, the more you detach from it. Fear loses its grip. The distractions fade. You begin to see through the programming, the lies, the systems that have kept you small. And when the moment comes, you choose. You choose whether to stay, whether to go, whether to return. You choose to remember. And that is what changes everything. Because death is not the end. It never was. It is only the beginning. Everything you have been taught about life and death has been designed to keep you in a state of limitation. The fear of death has been programmed into you since birth, not because it is natural, but because it is useful. A person who fears death can be controlled, manipulated, kept in line by systems that thrive on their ignorance. But the truth has always been there, hidden in plain sight, buried in ancient texts, whispered by those who have glimpsed beyond the veil. And now, as more and more people begin to wake up, the illusion is starting to crack. There is no death, there is only transition. The moment your body ceases to function, you become aware of something far greater than yourself. Your consciousness does not flicker out like a candle in the wind, it expands. It detaches from the physical world, no longer bound by time, no longer limited by form. For many, this moment comes with a profound realization. You were never your body. You were never your name, your identity, your story. These were merely roles you played in a temporary experience, but you, the real you, are something far more expansive. The first thing you notice is that time does not exist the way you once thought. A single moment can stretch into infinity, or an entire lifetime can be reviewed in an instant. People often report seeing their entire lives replay before them, but not as a passive observer. They relive it. Every action, every word, every thought, but from the perspective of those they impacted. The pain they caused, they feel it. The love they gave, they experience it magnified. This is not a punishment. This is understanding. This is a revelation, a process of deep soul-level awareness, where everything suddenly makes sense. And then there is the light. not a physical light, not something that can be measured, but an intelligence, a presence, something so profoundly familiar that the moment you experience it, you remember. It is warmth, love, knowing. It is the source of everything, the infinite ocean from which all consciousness emerges, and in that moment many choose to surrender to it, to merge back into that eternal field of energy, free from limitation, free from form, free from everything they once thought defined them. But not everyone moves forward. Some hesitate. Some resist. Some are too attached to the physical world, too bound by unfinished business, regret, or the weight of their own unresolved emotions. They linger in the space between, caught in their own creations. These are the souls who become trapped in loops, replaying moments of trauma, unable to move beyond their own self-imposed limitations. These are the ghosts, the wandering spirits, the ones who have yet to fully accept what has happened, not because they were sentenced to this state, but because they have not yet let go. And then there are those who choose to return. Reincarnation is not random. It is not a mechanical process beyond your control. It is a choice, one influenced by the lessons you have yet to learn, the attachments you still hold, and, in some cases, the forces that guide you back. Many believe that after death, souls are given the opportunity to review their journey and decide whether to move on or return. But here is the secret that has been hidden for centuries. Not all returns are voluntary. Some souls are pushed back into reincarnation, encouraged, deceived, or even tricked into coming back before they are ready. Some spiritual traditions warn of beings that appear in the afterlife, guiding souls toward the light, urging them to go back, convincing them that they have unfinished work, that they must return to balance their karma to complete their mission. But what if these forces are not what they seem? What if they are part of a system designed to keep you in the cycle, to keep you from realizing that you are already free? The CIA's Gateway process touched on this concept in ways that even they did not fully understand. Their research confirmed that consciousness is not bound to the body, that it can leave, explore, navigate other dimensions, and return with knowledge. But it also hinted at something more unsettling, that there are realms beyond this one, where things are not as they seem, where souls can be manipulated, misled, or guided into experiences that are not of their choosing. This is why awareness is everything. Those who understand the nature of the afterlife before they get there are not easily deceived. They are not tricked by illusions, not bound by false promises. They remember, and in that remembering they reclaim their sovereignty. This is why meditation, consciousness expansion, lucid dreaming, and out-of-body experiences have been practiced by mystics for thousands of years. They were not just exploring, they were training, preparing for the moment when they would step beyond the veil, so that when it came they would not be lost, so they would not be fooled, so they could choose. And this is what you must do now, because your entire life has been a preparation for that moment, whether you realize it or not. Every fear you overcome, every attachment you release, every illusion you see through brings you closer to liberation. And when the moment comes, you will recognize it, you will remember. You are not your body, you are not your mind, you are awareness, infinite and untouchable. The systems of this world have tried to convince you otherwise, tried to make you small, afraid, dependent on their rules, their limitations, their version of reality. But reality is so much greater than you have been told. When you die, you will not be judged by some external force, nor will you be sent to an eternity of suffering. The only thing that awaits you is truth. Truth about who you are, about the choices you have made, about the love and fear you have carried. And in that moment you will decide, will you move on? Will you return, or will you, like so many others, become caught in the space between, lingering in a loop of your own making? The choice is, and always has been, yours. This is the knowledge that has been hidden from you. This is the knowledge they do not want you to have. Because the moment you embrace it, you are no longer controlled. You are no longer afraid. You are no longer bound by the illusion that this life is all there is. And once you see through the illusion, you can never unsee it. So the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to live as if you are temporary, as if you are small, as if you are at the mercy of forces beyond your control? Or will you awaken to the truth? Will you begin to prepare, not in fear but in awareness? Because when the moment comes, and it will come for all of us, the only thing that will matter is what you know, what you remember, and what you choose. And now, you know the truth. There will come a moment when you feel it, that shift, that undeniable realization that the world you knew was never real in the way you thought it was. One instant, you are in your body, confined by the senses, weighed down by time, by gravity, by the endless noise of the material world, and then, suddenly, you are not. You are weightless, boundless, no longer a passenger in a decaying vessel of flesh, but an observer of something much greater. The fear you once had, the fear of losing yourself, of ceasing to exist, is nowhere to be found, because in that moment you know, you were never your body. You were never even your mind. You were something else entirely, something infinite. For most, this is the moment of ultimate clarity, and yet it is also the moment when the greatest deception begins. Across cultures, across time, those who have glimpsed beyond the veil have reported the same sequence of events. First, there is the light, a brilliance so profound that it feels like home, like pure love, like the very essence of existence itself. It pulls you in, gently, effortlessly, as if you are being embraced by something far greater than yourself. But here is the question that so few ever dare to ask. What if that light is not what it seems? Ancient teachings warn that the first thing you encounter after death is an illusion, a projection, a test, that the light, for all its beauty, may not be the final destination, but a doorway, and what lies beyond that doorway depends entirely on what you believe to be true. For some it is paradise, a realm of indescribable peace, the completion of everything they have ever sought. For others, it is something else entirely, a return, a recycling, a trap. This is where the deception begins. You are not asked what you desire, you are not given time to decide. Instead, you are drawn in, gently persuaded, encouraged to move forward without question. Some report seeing loved ones, figures from their past, beings of pure light that radiate warmth and wisdom. They are told it is time to return, that they have more to learn, that they have not yet fulfilled their purpose. And so, without hesitation, without knowing they have a choice, they go back. Another life, another cycle, another forgetting. But what if you remembered? What if in that moment, instead of surrendering to the pull, you stopped? What if you questioned everything? What if you chose? This is what the ancient masters trained for. The monks who meditated for decades, the shamans who journeyed beyond the body, the mystics who spoke of breaking free from the wheel of reincarnation. They all knew something that the rest of the world has forgotten, that in the moment of transition, awareness is everything. If you remember who you are, if you refuse to be pulled by external forces, if you choose your next step instead of allowing it to be chosen for you, everything changes. The CIA's gateway process was not just about altering brain states. It was about mapping consciousness itself. The studies revealed that the mind, when trained properly, could detach from the physical form, navigate dimensions, and return with knowledge. But what they failed to reveal, or perhaps what they deliberately buried, was the deeper implication of this discovery. If consciousness is separate from the body, if it exists outside of time and space, then why does it return? Why does it not move forward, evolve, transcend? What force is guiding it back? Reincarnation is not just a natural cycle, it is a system, and like all systems it benefits some more than others. Those who remember past lives speak of contracts, of agreements made before returning to Earth. Souls who claim they chose their lives, their struggles, their lessons. But who is enforcing these contracts? Who is deciding what a soul must experience before it is free? In many ancient texts there are warnings of false guides, of beings who present themselves as helpers, as divine figures, as guardians of the soul's journey. But their true purpose is control, to ensure that souls return, that they remain within the cycle, endlessly learning, endlessly suffering, endlessly forgetting, because a soul that never remembers is a soul that can never leave. This is why awareness is the most powerful weapon you can have, not just in life but in death. If you die in fear, if you die believing that you have no control, that you must follow the light, that you must obey the voices that greet you, then you are already caught. You will go where you are led, you will start over, and you will not even realize that it has happened. But if you die aware, if you recognize the illusion, if you pause, if you demand to remember, then suddenly the game changes. The masters of old prepared for this moment by practicing detachment. They stripped away their fears, their attachments, their illusions, so that when the time came they would not be deceived. They knew that in the moment of transition, clarity is everything. If you do not fear death, if you do not crave return, if you do not allow emotion to cloud your vision, you can step beyond the cycle. You can break free. The secret that has been hidden from you is that you have always had a choice. You are not a prisoner. You are not bound by fate. You are not required to return. The moment you realize this, the power is yours. So ask yourself, if you died right now, what would you do? Would you follow the light without question? Would you listen to the voices that tell you it is time to return? Or would you stop, look beyond the illusion and choose your own path? This is the knowledge that has been hidden from you. This is why the world keeps you distracted, keeps you locked in fear, keeps you focused on the physical, on survival, on anything but the truth. Because the moment you remember who you are, the moment you remember that you were never meant to be trapped, the moment you refuse to play the game, you are free. And that is the one thing they do not want. Because a soul that is free cannot be controlled. A soul that is free cannot be manipulated. A soul that is free does not return unless it chooses to. And now you have a choice. You can forget this. You can go back to your life, let the distractions take over, let the programming continue, or you can begin to prepare. You can train your mind. You can question the illusions. You can free yourself before the moment comes, so that when it does, you are ready. Because the time will come, for all of us. And when it does, the only thing that will matter is what you remember, because in that moment you will know whether you are waking up, or whether you are about to fall asleep all over again. Everything you have ever feared about death is an illusion. Every story you have been told, every whisper of finality, every moment of existential dread, it was all part of a carefully constructed deception. You were never meant to believe that you are infinite. You were never meant to remember that you are something far greater than the flesh and bone that carries you through this temporary experience, because if you remembered, truly remembered, the entire system of control would collapse overnight. There is a reason every ancient culture, every spiritual tradition, every secret society has obsessed over the nature of death. They knew something that the modern world has tried desperately to erase. That your consciousness, your awareness, your very essence does not belong to this physical reality. It is merely passing through. The moment your body fails, the moment your last breath leaves your lips, you do not cease, you awaken. And in that awakening, you will see the truth of everything. But not all who awaken are ready. Some have spent their entire lives trapped in illusion, conditioned to believe in limitation, in suffering, in separation. And for them, the moment of death is not liberation. It is confusion. They do not recognize what has happened. They do not realize they are free. They cling to their former lives, to their pain, to their regrets. They remain close to the physical world, desperate to hold on, unable to accept that everything they once knew was only a fraction of the truth. This is why ghosts exist. Not as lost souls, not as tortured spirits, but as individuals who simply do not yet understand. They stand in familiar places, reliving old memories, trying to interact with a world that no longer responds to them. Not because they have been cursed, not because they are being punished, but because they cannot let go. They were never taught how to release. They were never told that they were supposed to move forward. And then there are those who do move forward. Those who embrace the transition, who feel the pull of something greater, something vast, something otherworldly. They describe a feeling of expansion, of no longer being bound by time or space, of stepping into something so profoundly different that the physical world becomes nothing more than a distant dream. They describe the presence of beings, some familiar, some beyond comprehension, guiding them, speaking to them without words, showing them the paths they can take. But what they are not always told is that not all paths are equal. Some are open doors, invitations to explore new realms, new dimensions, new states of existence. But others are carefully designed corridors leading straight back into the cycle of reincarnation. The cycle that keeps souls returning, forgetting, starting over, lifetime after lifetime, trapped in a system that few ever question. Why do so many come back? Why do so many report being told that they must return, that their work is not done, that they have more lessons to learn? Who decides that? Who makes the rules? And why is it that, across history, across cultures, the same stories emerge? That the light is there, the guides are there, the pull is there, but the choice is never truly explained. The Tibetan masters spoke of this in ways that were so direct, so precise, that their teachings were suppressed for centuries. They warned that after death a soul must be vigilant, that not everything that appears is what it seems, that the first lights, the first voices, the first comforts are often illusions, meant to guide souls back into another lifetime, back into the same struggles, the same forgetfulness. The clear light, the ultimate truth, is only for those who recognize it, those who do not hesitate, those who do not allow fear or attachment to cloud their vision. It is said that in the moment of death, there is a single opportunity to merge with it, to become one with everything, to escape the cycle entirely. But most souls miss it, because they are distracted, because they are afraid, because they do not remember. The CIA's research into the gateway process was an accidental confirmation of this. They were not trying to discover the afterlife. They were not trying to map the soul's journey. They were experimenting with consciousness, with altering brain states, with inducing out-of-body experiences. But what they found was undeniable, that when a person learns to separate their awareness from their body, they begin to experience exactly what the dying describe. They see the same realms, the same beings, the same landscapes of thought and energy. They learn that they can travel beyond the limits of the physical world, that they are not confined to one place, one time, one identity. And if that can be done in life, imagine what can be done in death. The question is, will you be ready? Will you recognize the illusions? Will you resist the pull of the familiar? Will you step beyond the cycle? Or will you be led back like so many before you, believing that you have no other choice? You have always had a choice, but choice requires awareness, and awareness requires preparation. Everything in your life has led to this understanding. Every challenge, every suffering, every glimpse of something greater, it has all been nudging you toward this moment, the moment when you realize that you are not just preparing for death. You are preparing for what comes after. Because what comes after is not the end. It is the beginning of something that only you can decide. But to decide, you must wake up now, not later, not in your final moments when fear and doubt may cloud your vision. Now, while you are alive, while you still have time to sharpen your awareness, to question everything, to unlearn the lies you have been told. This is why the mystics meditated. This is why the ancients trained their minds. This is why some dedicated their entire lives to transcending illusion, not because they feared death, but because they knew what was at stake. They knew that if they did not train themselves to see beyond the veil, they might never escape it. This is why you must start now. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to the moments when time feels strange, when reality bends, when you sense that there is more than what your eyes can see. These are not random experiences. They are glimpses, reminders, clues. If you ignore them, you will forget. But if you follow them, if you lean into them, if you trust that they are leading you toward something greater, then when the moment comes, you will know. You will know what is real and what is illusion. You will know when to move forward and when to reject what is being offered. You will know that you are not obligated to return. You are not here to suffer. You are not here to be trapped. You are here to wake up. And once you do, nothing will ever be the same again. Imagine for a moment that everything you see, everything you touch, everything you experience in this world is nothing more than a projection a shadow cast by something greater, something unseen? What if reality itself is not as solid as it seems? What if the body you inhabit is not truly you, but just a temporary form, a character in a vast and intricate illusion? And what if, the moment you take your last breath, that illusion begins to unravel, revealing a truth so powerful, so undeniable, that it changes everything? People who have had near-death experiences describe this moment as the most profound awakening of their existence. It is not fear, it is not suffering, it is not an end. It is expansion, it is remembrance. The illusion of separation fades, the limitations of time and space dissolve, and suddenly you know. You know that you are never small. You know that you are never just a name or a story or a collection of memories. You are always something infinite, something eternal. But not all who cross that threshold move forward. Some resist, some hesitate, some fall into the very traps that have been laid for them over lifetimes. Because what awaits you after death is not just the light, not just the welcoming presence of loved ones, but choices. Choices that you must make in a moment of pure clarity. Choices that will determine whether you break free or return once more. And this is where the great deception begins. The world has taught you that death is something to be feared, that the unknown is something to avoid, that the only safe path is to follow the light, to trust the voices that greet you, to surrender to the pull of something greater. But what if that pull is not what it seems? What if the light, the warmth, the feeling of home is nothing more than a carefully designed mechanism, a system meant to bring you back? Ancient texts from across the world have warned of this. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes how souls are greeted by illusions, by beings that appear benevolent but serve to guide them back into another cycle of reincarnation. The Egyptian texts speak of tests, of challenges that must be faced, of gates that must be passed through with wisdom and awareness. Even the CIA's gateway process confirmed that consciousness, once freed from the body, enters a space where perception creates reality. And if perception creates reality, then those who control your perception control your fate. So ask yourself, when the moment comes, will you simply follow? Will you surrender to what feels familiar, to what feels comfortable, or will you question everything? Because those who do not question are the ones who return. They are the ones who are drawn back into the cycle, believing that they must continue to learn, to grow, to suffer, to experience. But those who remember, those who awaken, those who see through the illusion, they move beyond. And this is the secret that has been hidden from you. The fact that you were never meant to be trapped here, that the suffering, the struggle, the lessons, the endless cycles, they are not the only way. That there is another path, a path that has been erased, suppressed, buried beneath centuries of control. Because if too many souls remembered, if too many souls chose to leave, the system would collapse, the game would end. This is why awareness is everything. If you live your life asleep, lost in distractions, caught in the illusions of fear, materialism, and ego, then when the moment of death arrives, you will be unprepared. You will be vulnerable. You will be guided not by your own knowing, but by forces that do not have your best interests at heart. But if you wake up now, if you begin to train yourself to see beyond the veil, then when that moment comes, you will recognize it. You will know what is real and what is false. You will know when to move forward and when to reject the illusions placed before you. This is why the ancient masters meditated. This is why they practiced out-of-body travel, lucid dreaming, and deep states of consciousness expansion. They were training for death, not because they feared it, but because they understood that it was the final test. That if they did not wake up before it came, they risked falling into the same cycle, repeating the same patterns, losing themselves in the same deception. But here is the truth that changes everything. You do not need to wait for death to wake up. You do not need to leave your body to begin remembering who you are. The clues have been around you all along. In the moments of déjà vu, in the strange dreams that feel more real than waking life, in the whispers of intuition that tell you something about this world is off. These are not random. These are reminders. Glimpses of a reality beyond the one you have been conditioned to accept. And once you begin to pay attention, once you begin to question everything, the illusion starts to weaken. You start to see The fears that once held you back begin to dissolve. The attachments that once kept you bound begin to loosen. And the more you remember, the less control the system has over you. Because here is the final secret. You were never powerless. You were never just a passenger in this experience. You were never meant to be trapped in cycles of suffering, believing that you had no other choice. The moment you wake up, the moment you realize that you decide what happens next, the game is over. You win. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you push it aside? Let the distractions of the world pull you back in, convince yourself that this is just another idea, another theory? Or will you begin to prepare? Will you begin to awaken, because the time will come, the moment will arrive. And when it does, the only thing that will matter is what you remember. Will you follow the light without question? Will you listen to the voices that tell you it is time to return? Or will you stop, look beyond the illusion and choose your own path? Because this is the choice that has been hidden from you, and now you are awake. The moment you understand that death is not the end, that it is simply a doorway to another state of existence, everything changes. The fear dissolves, the uncertainty fades, and what is left is something you were never supposed to realize, that you have a choice. That you always had a choice. But choice requires awareness, and awareness requires preparation. If you do not prepare now, if you do not begin to question everything you have been told, then when the moment comes you will be just another soul led back into the cycle, unaware that you could have walked away. There is a reason so many people return from near-death experiences with a sense of urgency, with an unshakable knowing that this world is not what it seems. Some remember traveling through tunnels of light, feeling the pull of something greater, something comforting. Some recall standing before figures of immense power, being told that their time was not yet over. Others have memories of entire lifetimes flashing before them, of feeling the emotions of every person they had ever encountered. But what they all describe above all else is clarity. For the first time they saw beyond the illusion. They felt the weight of everything they had ever done. They understood their place in the grand design. But here is the detail that is often overlooked. Many were not given a choice. They were sent back. They were told to return. And the question that so few ever ask is, why? If death is truly liberation, if the afterlife is truly the realm of infinite wisdom and peace, then why are so many pulled back? Why do so many feel as though they are being forced into another cycle? Who or what is making that decision? The answer has been whispered in the oldest teachings, buried in texts that have been suppressed, dismissed, or deliberately erased. The answer is that not all who greet you after death have your best interests at heart. Not all beings of light are what they appear to be. There are forces in this reality, forces that operate beyond what the physical mind can comprehend, that thrive on keeping souls bound to the cycle of reincarnation. They present themselves as guides, as protectors, as wise and loving entities, but their purpose is singular, to convince you that you must return, that you are not ready, that you have more to learn, that Earth is a school and you are a student who has not yet completed the lesson, and if you believe them, if you surrender to the illusion, you will go back, you will forget, and you will start again. But what if you remembered? What if in that moment, instead of surrendering, you questioned? What if instead of walking toward the light without hesitation, you stopped and looked around? What if instead of blindly obeying the voices that tell you it is not your time, you asked, who are you to decide? This is the question that has the power to shatter the illusion. This is the awareness that changes everything. Because a soul that is awake cannot be deceived. A soul that knows cannot be forced back into the cycle against its will. This is why so many ancient traditions emphasized preparation for death, not as an end, but as the final and greatest test. The monks of Tibet practiced dying before their time came, training themselves to navigate the transition with full awareness. The shamans of indigenous cultures entered altered states to explore the afterlife, while still in the body, so that when death arrived they recognized it. The mystics of Egypt, the philosophers of Greece, the esoteric scholars of the East and West, they all knew, they all prepared. But today the world is designed to keep you unprepared. You are taught to fear death, to avoid thinking about it, to treat it as something unknown and unknowable. You are given distractions, meaningless pursuits, false goals that keep you focused only on the physical, because the longer you are distracted, the less likely you are to wake up before it is too late. The less likely you are to see. But now you see. Now you know. So what do you do with this knowledge? You begin to prepare, not in fear but in awareness. You start paying attention to your thoughts, your beliefs, the attachments that keep you bound. You begin to practice detachment, not from love, not from experience, but from illusion. You remind yourself every day that you are not your body, that you are not your mind, that you are something far greater. You begin to study the nature of consciousness, the mechanics of out-of-body travel, the wisdom of those who have walked this path before you. You seek the truth not in words, not in doctrines, but in direct experience. And when the moment comes, when your body takes its final breath and the veil begins to lift, you will not be afraid. You will not be confused. You will not be led. You will be aware. And in that awareness you will make a choice that most never realize they had. You can follow the light if you wish. You can return if you feel there is something left for you to do. But you can also choose something else. You can choose to go beyond, to step outside of the cycle, beyond the illusions, into a state of existence that cannot be described in human words, a state that only those who are truly awake will ever reach. And when that moment arrives, when you stand at the threshold of what comes next, the only thing that will matter is what you remember, because now you are awake, and those who are awake are free. The most powerful force in the universe is not time, not gravity, not even the vastness of space. The most powerful force is awareness, because awareness is what separates those who are free from those who are bound. Awareness is what determines whether you become a prisoner of the cycle or a master of your own existence. And when the moment comes when the illusion of this life begins to fade, the only thing that will matter is what you know. You are never your body. You are never just a collection of memories, just a story that began and ended in the span of a few decades. You have existed before, you will exist again, and the only question that remains is whether you will remember or whether you will allow yourself to forget once more. The system is designed to make you forget. The bright light, the familiar faces, the sense of warmth and comfort. It is all carefully crafted to make you feel safe, to make you trust without question. But what if that light is not an invitation? What if it is a trap? Ancient wisdom tells us that the soul, once freed from the body, is given choices. But not all choices are equal. Some paths lead to higher realms, to expansion, to infinite existence beyond anything the human mind can comprehend. Others lead back, to another body, another lifetime, another round of forgetting and remembering, learning and suffering, starting and ending over and over again. And the difference between those who move forward and those who are sent back is awareness. You must ask yourself, why do some souls return while others do not? Why do some remember their past lives while others step into a new existence, completely unaware of where they came from? The answer is not fate. The answer is not karma. The answer is control. There are forces in this universe, forces that thrive on keeping you bound, forces that benefit from your continued reincarnation. They do not want you to move forward. They do not want you to wake up. They want you to submit. You will hear voices. You will feel the pull of something greater. You will be told that it is not your time, that you must go back, that you must learn more, that you must complete your journey. But who decides that? Who makes these rules? If you believe in your own power, if you recognize that you are not just a soul but a creator, then no force, no light, no voice, no illusion can make you do anything against your will. And this is what they fear the most. A soul that remembers cannot be controlled. A soul that is awake cannot be deceived. A soul that knows its true nature is a soul that is beyond their reach. This is why they keep you distracted. This is why they fill your life with noise, with false obligations, with illusions of success and failure, love and loss, gain and suffering. Because if you are too distracted to question, you will be too distracted to escape. But now You are no longer distracted. Now you know. So when the moment comes when your body fades and your consciousness expands, pause. Do not rush toward the light. Do not follow blindly. Observe. Question. Recognize that you are at the most important crossroads of your existence. This is your test. This is your awakening. This is the moment when you must decide whether to be led or whether to lead yourself. If you desire to return, to experience life again, to learn and grow, then do so, but do it as a conscious choice, not as a reaction to forces beyond your control. But if you are ready, if you truly remember, then step beyond. Step into the vastness, into the unknown, into the place where freedom is absolute, where consciousness is limitless, where you become the architect of your own destiny. The deception ends when you decide it ends. The cycle continues only if you choose to remain inside of it. And now, you have a choice. The world you have known, the life you have lived, the identity you have carried, they are only temporary. They are a dream within a dream, an experience within an experience. And when the moment comes to wake up, will you rise? Or will you fall back into the sleep of another lifetime, another forgetting, another illusion? That decision is yours, and yours alone. And now, you are awake.